Welcome back to another episode of the Skits and Giggles podcast. For this one, Bryson and I sat down with the flying Grizzly, Chris Visscher. Currently the head shaper at Bike Park Lenzerheide, freerider, enduro racer, massive sender, one of the wildest whips in the game, an all-around good guy, and of course, a friend of the podcast. We talk a lot about his philosophy and vision for building new trails and cool features in the bike park that suit everyone, from beginner all the way to the pros racing on the World Cup downhill circuit. And we get to hear about his working with and letting himself be inspired by fellow builders like Greg Jolliffe or Nico Vink. This is the second time for Chris on the Skits and Giggles podcast. You can find the first episode as number 26 in our archives. And we do take the time to check back in on a few topics, such as his racing, his favorite trails, and of course, him setting up shop under his own Visscher company. For more information about this episode and the Skits and Giggles podcast, follow the links in the description. To support the podcast, please share this episode with your riding buddies, or leave us a 5-star rating on your favorite platform. But for now, please do enjoy this conversation with Chris Visscher.
Welcome back, Chris, Flying Grizzly Visscher.
Thanks for having me here again. It's really nice to see you guys.
Welcome back to the pod. So great to have you on. It's been a while, but we're really excited to hear about what's been going on. You know, off the top of my head, you picked up your stuff, moved all the way out to Davos, living the mountain life. Super jealous. But before we get going, we're going to start a new tradition in the pod. With the last guest, Darren, we asked him to basically blindly set down a question for the next guest, and we will ask you the same. His question to you was, what have been your toughest and greatest mountain bike moments?
Quite a difficult question, but in the end, I think the greatest mountain bike moment for me is actually happening right now, my life. Because if I was like thinking about this question, and if I look back and could tell my 15 or like 14-year-old me where I started riding bikes to be where I am right now, I wouldn't have believed myself, like, because it's kind of weird because it doesn't feel like a dream, but actually, it's a true dream. I mean, I built a bike park. I'm a head shaper in a bike park. I'm almost riding everyday bikes. I have my sponsors. I have everything I've dreamed of when I was 14. So that's the greatest moment, actually.
I've heard that the problem isn't... you heard that song, I can't get no satisfaction. I've heard it. It's the problem actually isn't about getting satisfaction. It's keeping the satisfaction. So now that you've like maybe not admitting to it, but you've achieved your dream, let's say, how do you retain that satisfaction of having it?
Yeah, I mean, for a normal sports guy, you always push your limits to keep satisfied. But actually, it's maybe the way more difficult move to just sit down and think back what you arrive like what you already done. And that's the same story. I mean, if I would tell my 15-year-old me, you will once do front flipping your downhill bike to dirt, I would never ever believe myself, like, not at all. And it's kind of cool to be able to sit down and just realize those things.
Sounds like you're creating a reverse bucket list.
I do. I mean, I had my bucket list, my trick list and everything, and but I didn't like write it down. And now I can really just sit here and think of, and I probably like achieved everything, almost everything.
Yeah, you can just basically write down what you achieved, and it's like Hall of Fame
for myself.
I mean, that's a great feeling.
It is.
I think we should all take some time to do that.
Yeah, I think it helps everyone.
Maybe I'll do that after the pod.
To, like reflect yourself. Because we're all just like busy every day and just living from day to day and thinking about the problems and stuff we have to do and have to worry about. And if you think back, tell your 15-year-old self like what you what you achieved right now already. It's insane.
Powerful.
Greatest mountain bike moment.
And with that, I think we dive into the topics for the day. I mean, that was a great input from Darren. Thank you, Darren, the trail tracker, and thank you, Chris, for sharing. I guess you mentioned already quite a few things that we are really interested in tonight. And, you said head shaper over the bike park. We've all been to the bike park. Certainly I have over the last little while, been quite often to the bike park. We've seen the videos, the socials, the new builds, the new features, all these kind of things. And I thought it was a great time to sit down and reflect over the last 2 years that, since we talked, because you were right at the beginning of that journey when we talked the last time. And now is, I think, a really cool time to reflect on that period, because I think there was some really, really cool things that came out of that. Maybe if you just want to kick it off, I mean, if you think back to those 2 years, like what were your kind of highlights? What were like the coolest things you got to experience?
We did so many stuff actually.
Here, I'll frame it for you. We recorded around like middle of September.
It was on the start of the Grizzly line actually, or was it already finished then?
It was just finished.
Ooh, the Grizzly line. Your very own signature
line.
I
mean, how cool is this to have your own own line in a mountain bike park in one of the biggest parks in Switzerland?
No one has
a freaking
that.
honor.
And it's quite a feature.
Yeah, it's a bit a mini Fast Series line. That's cool because it really fits my style of riding as well. So it's really kind of mini fast line.
Oh, what do you mean with it kind of a representation of your style? It's just a massive send if you if you hit it with speed.
I mean, with the like stone step down, the big shark fin to carry speed, and then just go on to that big takeoff. I mean, that's the feeling you want to have. It's really kind of like mini Fast Series. It's not that big as Fast Series, but it gets you the same feeling a little bit.
There's a World Cup downhill event in Lenzerheide. Did they incorporate part of the Grizzly line?
Yeah, they hit the same bridge, but they took the Mallow takeoff because it's faster. And some of them, I think they did, or all of them did the shark fin because it's the faster line.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was part of the World Cup. And then the step down after, and then straight into the forest on the black again. So it was kind of mixed up.
And of course, you've sculpted and built several lines since then.
Oh, I did. I mean, we did.
Yeah.
It's never one guy who's building a line. It's always the team.
Truly.
One gets maybe the vision, but it takes all of them. And we did a lot of stuff, like a lot of interesting stuff, as well with Greg Jolliffe. What a good guy. Yeah, we did some really interesting stuff. I mean, we almost completely reshaped the prime line, the red line. We started on the flow line as well, and we get some new parts there. So we almost did both lines top to bottom. And right now we are allowed, because now it's not a World Cup anymore in Lenzerheide. Maybe for a couple of years. We don't know if forever or not. And now we're allowed to start building on the black line. So can you imagine what we will do there?
Well, you can do some damage there because that track is beaten up.
Yeah, and it's a black line, and black line has no limitations.
Something already brewing in your mind?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I want to have a really difficult technical mixed jump line with natural stuff, and it should have from top to bottom like a flow, so it starts easy but technical, and then getting even bigger, and then natural stuff, maybe some short tracks, short lines to chill a bit more, and then again building up. But it's quite difficult. It's really steep terrain, so kind of interesting to build.
Yeah, it's quite straight down that track.
Exactly.
I mean, currently,
maybe we can stretch.
So you'd have to move a lot of material into.
Yeah, we do. But I think
to sculpt your creation.
Yeah, and maybe we have to rethink and get some permissions to stretch out the line a bit more to the wide.
Yeah. So what are the restrictions in the bike park? Because obviously everyone sees like the gondola and everything under the gondola, and it from the outside in, it appears like it's fair game. Whatever is in that sector below the gondola, are there more restrictions? Are you only allowed to build in certain sectors, or how does that look?
Oh, it's quite complicated. I mean, we could talk just about this for hours actually,
Okay,
because
executive
we
summary.
don't want to get too far in the details, I think. But I mean, we have different, like, we share actually the whole ground with different people, so it's not just us. We cannot just do whatever we want. Then the the lines are actually measured by GPS, so we have to stay on the lines. We can't move to the side. If we want to move 1 meter to the side, we have to get a permission
Okay,
by by
landowners,
like
etc.
exactly landowners and like a lot of other persons. And for a permission, it usually takes a year or more
Oh, okay.
for 1 meter moving the line.
Mm.
So that's why we have to start to get creative and build like options in just the same line.
Yeah.
That's for sure one big thing we have to deal with. Then it's like a water spring safety area.
Yeah.
So
No.
that's the other thing. So we are really not allowed to drive machines in sort of the areas on the mountain. We're actually just lucky to be able to build there still.
Yeah.
And my boss is always keep saying, like, if one big mistake, if we do one big mistake, we probably aren't allowed at all anymore to build.
Hmm.
So it's like, really be careful what we do.
Okay.
And if you just look from the outside on the park, it looks like we're actually able to build everything we want, because we do a lot of stuff, but it needs so much talking. And I'm the guy who's talking all the time with everyone.
So you're head shaper, but are there other head shapers, or are you managing like one team or several teams? How does that work?
No, actually, I'm mainly there for like designing and building. So that's why I'm the head shaper. We have Timo. He is the team leader. So he's there for organizing and ordering like new dirt or like machine parts and stuff. And he's doing like dealing with the guys and the HR for us. And I'm actually outside and building and organizing that things.
You talk a lot about vision, and I think that's also something we kind of want to get into. Is you have your view, you have your idea. As we said, you have the vision of what you want to build. Presumably, it's something that you also want to ride. And
For sure.
how do you get from your vision, what you have on a piece of paper, for example, or in your just between your ears, and taking the restrictions in the park, and then how do you go about putting your vision into action? Because I've seen a lot of the sketches from you, I've seen a lot of sketches from Greg, like how you develop the ideas, and I would really be interested to hear how you kind of take it from the piece of paper into the park.
Oh well, that's different for everyone. I think for me, it's always like, first I have to know where I build, and then with what I have to deal with, maybe um, some like safety area or whatever, or maybe rivers and stuff, and then you start kind of thinking on what you're building. Firstly, I mean, if you're building on a red line or on a black one, then you start to think like in this direction. And maybe if they say, like, for example, let's do a jump line, you just spot and look for options. Actually, you always want to have options. You don't want to build a jump for one one option. So it's not just a straight jump. You always want to have like, let's go for a hip as well, or triple or quadruple or whatever. So that makes it interesting for everyone. And that's actually as well the point. So if you build on the red one, you cannot just build for riders who are in that middle, like average rider part. So you have to still to build for everyone. Like beginners needs to be able to roll through. Then experts have to have an option for like triple or quadruple. So you have to think for stuff like that, and then you just start drawing and seeing how it will be. And then you have this like rough shape on the paper and in your mind, and then you start to dig, to go in the machine, to go into the excavator, moving around dirt, and mostly it stays a bit like as you imagined, but at some point it completely changes your plan. So then you just start from where you are right now, because sometimes it just doesn't work at all.
And then are you kind of checking your plans with someone else first to kind of get another view? Are you do you work in a team, or is it just like you're the boss, you have the vision, you're the idea guy, and guys, this way, this is how we're going to do it? Or is it a bit more collaborative?
I mean, we collect the ideas from everyone, and then we try to mix it up a bit. But in the end, I'm the guy who's doing design, and I just talk to everyone, and because I don't want to just build for myself, because if I just build for myself, we would have fast series there. And then maybe no one will be happy. So everything is just a big deal to make everything like works for everyone, and like collecting all the ideas and then like breaking it down to the average bike park rider.
So then we skip ahead to the test ride. You did the first couple guinea pig hits on these lines, and then you think to yourself, I need to adjust this, or it needs to be bigger.
Mostly it's like this. So the funny thing about building is you have your plan, you start to get in the excavator, and then you start building, and then that's what I figured out for myself. I have to really stay with that first thought. So I have in my mind, like, it has to be like 3 meters high, it has to be 12 meters far, for example. It has to be this radius, it has to be like this steep at the takeoff. And then I have to keep with that vision. Because if I start to build, and then if it takes like for days or for weeks, as soon as it takes longer, it starts to look like impossible. So if you're longer there, like, it starts to look day by day more impossible. Like, oh man, is this working? It looks way too big. It doesn't work out. And I have to stay with my first thought. So, and then it works. And mostly it's really like this. So, and I start to change maybe something while building, and then I test it, and then like, oh man, I'm so stupid. I just had to leave it like this, like I thought it needs to be. And then
so it's like a refinement process.
Yeah. So I have to go back to the first thought, and then it's all fine then, mostly.
Yeah, when you've come from like a background of digging a lot and building jumps and doing that stuff for yourself personally, from your personal interest, you get that sense of like what works and what doesn't. And then, of course, you ride a lot, so you understand the flow and what you want to achieve out of all the line. So, yeah, I guess you have to bring it all in together.
Yeah.
And in the end, I can see that it can be the vision of one person, of course, achieved by many people, but that one person has this main idea, and if that's splintered into too many other people's ideas, there's no congruency.
I mean, there's that saying, like, too many cooks are messing up the meal. It's kind of same thing, because for me, it was always like, if I stay with my idea, it kind of works out. Probably for most of the riders, for sure, I can't make everyone happy. And I get a lot of feedback on Instagram and social if I do shit. So, I mean, I really have the messages on the very next day, like, this is not good, this is not good. Or if it's good, I get the messages as well, but they're for sure less. It's human. But with the building, it was really interesting because it's kind of experience thing, because I had this talent from the beginning to look at a jump and know it's working or not. And I think this is something not many riders have, to judging speed as well. So if you stay on a hill and you see a jump like 10 meters further down, I mostly can tell you how far I get if I just roll in here.
While you're in this process and you encounter other kinds of riders, so you have like I'll just give a kind of a fake example. There's like a up and coming free rider who you've noticed before, and he's able to clear all your jumps, but of course he's still like at the earlier stages. He might come to you and say, "Hey, this and that." He might tell you something about what he thinks about the line or what he thinks about the area of riding, versus a guy who's been like seasoned like you. He's like, he can clean everything. He's just as stylish, but he has a completely different style. So he wants to see other different things. Do you get a lot of different, like very distinctly different opinions coming at you? And what are they like? What's an example from like this less seasoned and more seasoned, let's say?
Like totally. I mean, everyone. That's a funny thing about Switzerland, I guess, because everyone who's a bit better at riding thinks they know how a park and a jump should be.
I mean, everyone has their preference, right?
Yeah. Everyone has a preference, but everyone is just, most of them. I don't want to like put everyone in the same like direction, but I think most of them are just thinking for themselves. Like it maybe has to be bigger, maybe has to be smaller, and then they just reach out to me and say me like, this is too big, this is too small, this is too steep, this is too mellow. And for me it's always like collecting everything, and sometimes it's really a lot, and then just try to get the middle way. Except it is made for pros, it is made for beginners, then I have to just leave it like that. And at some point you just have to stay with your first thought, as I said, and say like, look, I mean, and I don't want to get too close to someone or like maybe disappoint anyone, but if they say me like it's too big, and I say like maybe rethink, and it's a pro line, and maybe you're not that good at riding, so maybe you should not judge. It works in the other direction as well. I mean, that's probably more common, that really good riders are coming to me and say me like, this berm is too flat, too mellow, or this jump is not big enough, or I overshoot it every time. And then you need to be good in talking and explain those guys like, yeah, the park is not for pros. It's blue, red, and that's the jump lines. You have some options, but in the end, it's not for pros. And it's not the pro who is doing the most of the money. And I don't like to talk about money because, but it is how it is. We all have to work for money, and the bike park is gaining money. And that's the main thing, You have to build for everyone, so everyone is going into the park.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, it's common sense, right? So, pros are a very, very, or top level riders are a very small part of people that use the bike park, right? So 99% of the people are not pros or very advanced riders. Therefore,
that's true.
Just follow the numbers, right?
Exactly. That's the difficult thing. So that's why you should be really, really creative and be able to build on black and blues and reds for everyone. So everyone has fun on it. And that's the point where you figure out you're a good builder or not.
So I know you do a lot more than just building. You do a lot of riding in a lot of different places. Do you get inspiration from the different places that you visit, and like think, I'm going to incorporate this, and that would be my dream line to put that in there? And did you like kind of like a formal or official kind of a benchmarking where you go places on purpose just to see what they have done because maybe you heard like, oh, it's the best kind of thing?
Yeah, for me it's Porto Sole. I often go to Châtel. Oh. I mean, not that often as I wish I could, but actually all the stuff which is Nico Vink building works mostly for everyone. So he is probably the man who you have to be to look at his stuff, like, because maybe have you been to Châtel? Have you ridden the Vink line, the lower one? It's like this is how a bike park line should be. I mean, they're lucky they have not that steep terrain and stuff as we do in Lenzerheide, and that's kind of disappointing because we cannot change the lines. But we have to kind of go in this direction because it's a green line, the Vink line. But I can ride it and go to my completely limits because you can go so fast. You can double, triple. You can do everything. You can do side hits and gaps to everywhere. But the rental guy who's going there first time, renting a bike, can cruise down and has fun. So that's the way you should build. That's the future in bike park building.
Oh, it's really smart. Okay, so
Yeah.
he has a really good grasp on how to achieve this sort of thing.
He has just
Wow.
really, really a lot of experience for
Mm-hmm.
years now, and he's the man, really.
I wanna touch on that, and also what you said earlier with working with other people and trusting your instinct, and staying to your vision, just consulting everyone but staying to your vision. How does that work when you're working with like let's sound like Greg Jolliffe, who is a very experienced builder, or if you had the opportunity to work with Nico Vink, it's like, okay, who am I trusting more? Whose instinct am I going with? Is that like, is there a constructive dialogue, or is one guy in the lead and just says like, look, this is the way it needs to be, or how does that work?
Actually, same. You probably just collect all the ideas and maybe find out something in between. But with Greg, it's funny because that line he recently built in the bike park, I didn't tell him anything about my ideas. I had some drawings and everything, so I actually planned everything before, and then I just like I just talked to him and like, yeah, do your own plan. I don't like want to change your mind or like putting my ideas into your mind. So just make your own plan. Do you some drawings, and then we just meet at the park at the location. And that day we met. It's just like, because we are all riders, and we probably, like Nico would do and Greg does and I do, we all kind of think in the same direction. And Greg had like maybe just one feature different than I had, so it was completely the same plan. But we didn't talk with each other about the plans. We've been there, looked at the stuff, and then we started to talk, and it's like the same thing. And then maybe one is more experienced than the other in building. That's a bigger difference, I think. But the rider has always the same vision, I guess.
I think I can see how it comes together. Like you have your set area where you should build the track. Obviously, They say build the track here and here and here and here. They say, okay, you can't go in this space because of water, or you can't go in this space because this tree needs to be here. And then your regulations are defined, and you basically, now you work in this box, and you say, how can I make the best impact with what I have?
True.
And you're like, okay, then that means for sure there's a berm here, and then it will link up to this, to this, to this. Oh, that'll be the perfect combo there. And then, I'll link something up to that so that it would highlights this, or, I mean,
absolutely, that
opens the options, but you work within this frame, right?
Yeah, that's it. If you get this frame and you want to draw your image on that frame, actually every rider is doing the same thing, because you're pretty limited with features, and then you have sort of speed. So you're limited with the speed. You can't just make more speed for the riders, and then that's it. Actually, you're limited. So if you have a flat spot, you go more for rhythm section. If you have steep terrain, you try to do more step up to get out speed, and that's the deal we have to do, everyone.
Okay, so there's almost a process or like a standardization of features that are like best suited for specific areas, or
exactly.
Yeah. I see.
So
okay,
so know all those features actually as a good rider, and then you just like making the puzzle work.
I see. Okay, so it's like, oh, it doesn't make sense to put a big double here because no one can collect speed for it, so we'll put a rhythm.
No one can clear it.
And once you gain experience in understanding trail building and the way you have to work with what you have, then it makes it almost obvious where you need to put these things. Okay.
Exactly.
And that's how eventually you and Greg came to like the same point, except for that one spot.
Absolutely.
Or maybe there was more of an openness where it's like, oh, actually you could do several things here. So Greg, choose this, you choose that.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
It was
Vin could choose something else.
I was looking for on off box in the line, and he was like, "Oh yes, I thought the same, but maybe we can do a shark fin as well on the left side." So that's the thing. He's at this point thinking more on options, where I was just like, maybe we can just do it for the rhythm section to have it perfect for a red line. And he was like, "Oh no, we can do a black option here, and we can do maybe something else there." So that's the experience he has a bit more than I do.
It sounds so easy talking to like a master builder about how this process works, but like I've also gone to dig days, and I've also like I had some property that had a slope, and I was like, maybe I'll build like just a little thing. And I stand in this forest, and I look, and I'm like, I have no clue. I mean, I can't imagine something going there when there's like a huge bush there and the tree there, and then I can't see over that rock, and like, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas I guess with experience, it's like way easier for you to tell us about this stuff.
Yeah, no. If you go into fresh terrain, never ever anyone built there. It's just like trees, bushes, and rocks and everything. But you have to think all those small things to the side. You have to think the trees to the side, because if you are able to cut down trees, for sure. If you're not, you have to build around. But you just look at the terrain, and then you just think at the speed you will get in this terrain, and then you're always like, and you're already limited in what you can build. So that's actually the only way. If you go straight down and really steep, I mean, then you have to get out speed. If it's just mellow and nice, actually, you can build some jumps, rhythm section. You have to carry speed. It's not that difficult, actually.
One thing that stood out to me time and time again is like, all these features, let it be the Grizzly line, let it be the new Prime line, whatever it was, the new feature and some kind of cool content, they always went hand in hand. So, right now there's like a cool video on YouTube about the new Prime line, really well done. Is that something that you guys planned from the start to kind of showcase what you've done, or has that then only crept in at a later stage?
I mean, we want to have the riders having fun in our park, and when we build something special, they have fun, and the content starts to just be there. If it's good build and everyone has fun on the line, they all start to film. And it's funny because in the bike park, if you start to build something and you finish, the next day, I couldn't even like do filming or photos or whatever on it, but there are already videos on Instagram of it.
Oh wow!
And I wasn't even able really to do a session on the new features.
Okay.
So the bike park at the Bike Kingdom Park is really insane about stuff like this. There's content before even we finish the line. Actually,
yeah. No, with the Prime line, I thought like, okay, these are all the things you could be doing on this line. Meanwhile, most of the people are just rolling down and looking at the build, and it's like, oh, that looks nice. I'm never gonna hit that. And
yeah, but
artwork.
But that's how it should be. Actually, no. If you should be able to roll down the trail the first try, and you should feel good. And then you go the second time, and then you maybe look at the stuff and like, oh, there's a side. Oh, this is an option. Or maybe I can double that one. And then you just do these things. And the third time you're doing like, oh, I carry now way more speed than before. I have a lot of other options. So it's really like this, how it should be.
We talk a lot about speed. And obviously, that's something you're going to need if you're going to do a little bit of racing.
Yeah, you have to be fast. That's important, and you have to pedal.
But just hearing you say speed so many times, I'm like, this guy knows how to go fast.
Obviously, I do. I didn't thought so.
Definitely not one of my traits, but yeah, props to you.
Thank you.
It was funny because 2 years ago when we talked, you were like very uncommitted. It's like, yeah, I did some racing. I always crashed, and all my friends, they didn't have fun because blah, 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 and all this. But then you sign up for, some enduro races, and now you start taking prisoners. Last time I checked, you had a full set of medals, excuse me, from Swiss Enduro Series this year. So I guess you're not always
What
crashing.
happened to you?
What happened?
I don't know. I mean, we did the first race in Lutschenthal. It was 2 years ago, I think,
Exactly.
and we were there just with friends, and we did it just for fun because we sent the slowest of us as first and the fastest of us as last. So I was last, and my friends like the faster you get, the more back you start. So, and then we just did like this. So I was overtaking my friends, and we just had fun on the trails. And um, last year I was like, okay, let's do all of them because it was so much fun. And my friends are like the same. They was like, oh yeah, come on, let's do all of them. We just race, and it totally got me. I mean, you ride so much bike on an enduro race, and like you can't compare it with downhill or everything else because you have 4 to 5 stages. You just have one training lap, so you have to be so smart with line choosing and like speed judging and everything around. You have to be really well rounded, and you have to be freaking fit. So and that got me really so because it was I don't know, I couldn't remember the last time I was riding so much bike on one weekend. So that's the thing with enduro racing. It's just cool. You ride so much bike.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you found the recipe.
Yeah.
Seeing that you won your first one. I guess I was at home in Lenzerheide, so that doesn't really count.
Not really.
But
No.
I remember last year I think you were in the lead after 2 stages, and then you completely binned it on the third one. I think you
Yeah.
bent your crank. I
That
don't
was
even know how you
the lead
managed
on
to
the
bend the
fastest, of
crank,
course.
but you
Yeah,
did
that
that.
was wow. I paddled into stone.
Ah.
So
I guess that's all the power you put down.
yeah,
Solid.
you're getting smarter with racing, I think, and it makes you really a good rider because you have to think about so many stuff. Um, like if you, I mean, even the basiest, like the basic things, like are you able to pedal or not? And obviously, I wasn't able to pedal because there were so many rocks, and I just wanted to be a bit faster because I felt slow on that like section of the trail. And then yeah, pedal into stone. Don't do that for the
Yeah.
next time. You're just growing as a rider.
Are you going to continue with racing? Is that something you're going to push for, or are you looking for new things?
Oh man, I'm just I don't know. I'm between the lines somewhere because I do really love it, and I'm always thinking about like having the challenge to ride elite, and next and doing like elite laps for the next season. So
Oh,
competing
okay.
in the license. But this means for me to really give a lot of effort into it and like doing like interval training, and I hate pedaling. So and that's the only thing what makes me slow actually on enduro racing.
Ah, pedaling stages.
My endurance, yeah, pedal stages. I'm not really good in endurance, so that's maybe like if I decide to do that, it maybe kicks it's a kicking my ass to really work on it.
Finally get into shape.
Get fit, yeah. Like really, you know.
Yeah.
Last year, or not last year, I gotta keep saying that, but last time we talked to you, we also heard from Mr. Houdini, and you mentioned a really novel idea, actually, where the suspension is like transforming as you ride to adapt to what you believe will work for you better on the trail.
Mm.
Now, I know what kind of bike you used to ride because I ride the same bike, but now you have a newer one. Do you think maybe that the change in the suspension setup has also benefited you in terms of like free riding as well as racing? What's your opinion on the middle high pivot or the high pivot?
It's
Tell us a
kind of
little bit.
mid-high pivot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really really cool for racing. I'm not sure about like jumping.
Okay.
I mean I get used to it, but it feels because it's getting longer when it goes into the travel. It
Yeah.
feels a bit weird, but I mean I'm able to flip and everything, so it's cool. But it makes you really faster. The high pivot. I mean,
Yeah, that's what
makes me
we
faster.
keep hearing and reading about.
Yeah, it's really cool. But I mean, adapting to your writing style or the trail would be like kind of flight attendant thing. That's
Maybe.
Maybe someone from RockShox listened, and then they were like, "Hey, we got this electronics thingy. Let's put it into practice." You know?
Yeah.
They're for sure on something like this. I mean, there is already a flight attendant. I'm pretty sure like Olin's getting like GPS calculated suspension. So if you imagine a World Cup track and they just have few segments and they just programming those segments to the suspension, and the suspension is like, I'm here, it's stiff now, I'm on the rough part, it's soft now, and like changes by itself while you're riding.
That sounds like a little bit of what Loic Bruni's got going on.
I think this will be the future in downhill racing. Or like those buttons he has, like now I have firm, easy, or whatever suspension, or for pedal.
I thought they were just to psych everyone out. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, he's pushing buttons while he races! It's crazy."
I mean, it's MotoGP. In the end, it's actually already there.
But moving on though, so you've been racing, you've been doing a lot of building, and you founded your own company.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit.
It's a funny story because last season, I mean, I'm sponsored by Bike Kingdom as well.
Okay.
And I'm working for Bike Kingdom, so like having two contracts for the same company, and there started a problem because in Switzerland you can't work more than 100% for the same company. So because I was working 100% and on the side being sponsored rider, so working on the weekend as well for the same company, they started to get a problem, and they said like it's the only solution to like deal with me and having a company. So that's all started, and then it just grows and grows and grows, and I'm not like, okay, I do a company and then I just let it be. I'm not that sort of guy. I'm thinking about everything around, and now I have a company. I can be a photographer, I can be a mechanic, I can be a rider, I can be actually a pro rider with insurance and everything. I can, what else? Build bike parks for my own company. So I mean, why just do one thing when you can do like everything you want?
You can have custom pedals or something.
You could have.
So is that the idea? Is for Visscher company to kind of bring all your experience together and then kind of to marry up like the building and the riding and content and all that sort of stuff, and then give a platform for you to show what you got.
To give a platform to everyone to show what I'm able to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's the thing.
I remember when you launched it. I started to like follow it on Instagram and of course, supporting the bro. But what I found out by coincidence when I was scrolling one day, there's a couple. I don't know them, but I follow them also on Instagram. Their tag is allmountain.ch. So of course they're Swiss, and all mountain being, like kind of, to me, that what that means is not just like all mountain bike riding. It's like everything to do with mountains. So maybe they're like, living in the mountains. I don't know. But then I saw that they got married and they did like a bike ride on their wedding day, which is epic. And it had the tag Visscher company as the photographer. And I was like, oh, I know this guy.
That was so cute. Really, really, really. I mean, it was an honor to be there as a photographer, and it was my first wedding ever. I wasn't ever on a wedding. So I don't know. I didn't know how to give myself. But I was lucky to be the photographer, so I was just on the side and doing my shots. And they just invited me. They actually live in Lenzerheide, and they are living Bike Kingdom. It's their thing actually. So that's why they married in the restaurant next on the middle section. I was really epic in the end. I mean, they did a ride, a lap down, and wedding clothes and everything. And
Mhm.
I was just going ahead and doing all the photos and stuff. Yeah, it's really cool to be able to do stuff like this.
I think it's very sweet and very unique. Actually, I think I think a lot of guys might think about it. Not sure so many women do. Yeah, maybe there are mountain bike women, of course. If
Yeah,
you're a
there
mountain
are.
bike woman out there and you really have this great idea about having a mountain bike wedding, send us an email, send us a message, let us know. Maybe Chris will take the photo, but
I
yeah,
will.
we're interested to hear the opinions on this kind of thing. So if there's listeners out there that want to put their ideas forward, we for sure want to hear about it. But for me, I'm just like, yeah, it's like, I mean, it's just so wholesome, you know, it's cool. I
Mm.
like that. Two people who are passionate about mountains, passionate about mountain biking, want to incorporate it in their wedding. All their friends are riding buddies, like that kind of thing. It's just so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool. And you're getting, if you're there on the wedding, you're getting like to know them because they both tell their stories, how they met each other and everything, and it really touches you. It's really really cute.
Mm.
Well, I can talk from experience. Yes, it is quite a unique experience, and yeah, certainly, I guess Bryson can attest to that too. But
Nothing like it.
Bryson also mentioned something else, and he mentioned emails and our listeners sending them to us. And on that note, we had a great email fly into our inbox the other day.
Oh, yes.
I'm not going to read it
It's a long
in
one.
full. It's a long one. It's a very nice one. And I'm really, really grateful for inputs like that, because that is really what makes this project so cool. I guess the executive summary is his name is Dave, and he wants to know, man, where are all the Black Diamond tech trails? So I was wondering, because I promised to him, it's like, look, we're gonna take this up, and whenever we have someone that we can talk about this, we will ask that question. So, Chris, where are all the double Black Diamond tech trails? Why are we not seeing them anymore? Where are they?
Come to Davos. Here they are.
Well, depends.
Well.
Depends. I mean, there has been some developments in Davos as well that have led to, formerly very black trails not being very black anymore. As something that we see not only in Davos, we see that pretty much anywhere. Of course, it has to do with many, 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 many more people being into sport, and therefore we need to cater to a more broader audience. But what is your take on this? Where do you find your tech trails?
Well, at home, but in the end, if you ask for like having something like Black Diamond in a bike park or something, to why is there no Black Diamond in a bike park? That's a question I got asked many times as well. Why don't we have a pro jump line and stuff? I think it's because the sport is still pretty young in Switzerland and not that accepted as it is in Canada, for example. And it's a Swiss thing to make money out of everything. And the money goes with the average rider, and the average rider in a young sport isn't that good. So that's your answer, actually. And I think for me, it just needs to grow more to have like diamond trails as well in a bike park.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, yes, if you take 100 riders, per definition, you can only have one or two that are actually pro or very, very advanced riders. If you make that 1 million, then that number grows significantly, and then all of a sudden you can talk about having a dedicated pro line, or huge jumps, massive features, and like very tech kind of things. But yeah, it's obviously something that people that have been riding for a long time, or have been in the sport for a long time, and obviously have dealt with originally built trails that were for hikers or whatever it was, and that was obviously very, very challenging. And now that we have many more bikers, they need to, or they want to make them more accessible so that more people can use the same trails, right? So rather than, and we talked about the restrictions of building new trails and building new features, right? You can't just build a new trail wherever you want, right? So, that was a good example. There's been many examples of different interest groups that need to be aligned and agreeing to a new project and stuff like that, right? So that's pretty much the same anywhere.
Yeah, I think so. Because so many people on such a small country.
I also share the opinion. So I'm coming from Vancouver, in case those of you listening don't know. And I actually know of a case where someone has asked this and then decided they will make themselves a black or double black trail. And it was not legal.
Yeah.
It wasn't well known. It wasn't known at all until eventually it became kind of like legit enough that people were trying to, or petitioning to make it real. That's how it goes sometimes. You're going to have to find the ridership to get popular, and then, yeah.
Yeah, totally true.
But
Yeah, I think we will stay with the same problem because it's so small and we so many people. You can't just go on a mountain somewhere and build your land because someone will see. And that's a fun, interesting story because when I've been last time in Canada, we met a guy called Jace. He shuttled us on his own Ford F-150 truck. He got it for like a box of beer, so it was really, really cool one.
Real Canadian trade.
And they had in like close to Kamloops, they had their own home trail. But the thing is in Canada, you drive there 2 hours and then you drive up the whole mountain for maybe another 45 minutes, and there's no one except you and your friends. And they won't probably never be anyone except you and your friends building that trail. And if you go here to whatever, I mean, Schatzalp or, I don't know, Jakobsholm, it doesn't matter. There will be people. So that's why it doesn't work to have an illegal trail without problems.
Yeah, for a long time.
For a long time, yeah.
Yeah.
So we just need to be smart and be good in talking and making friends everywhere.
In high places, as they say.
Well, I guess if there's enough people who like legitimately are working together, speaking with a lot of other people, pulling together and saying, let's at least make one here somewhere, it might happen. And then we answered Dave's question of where can he find that black technical trail?
Yeah.
And then an example is set of how people work together, how it was legitimized, how people benefit from it and enjoy it, and all these positive things. And then somewhere else, someone says, I want to take what happened there and put it near me. So they also get somehow the pull from the society, businesses, landowners, to also do the same thing. So mimic what had happened to create this black technical trail. And then it can proliferate through some Alp areas or some riding areas.
Yeah, and it would
perhaps this is the way.
It would be as well an interesting question to ask Dave, what is a black diamond trail for him? Because maybe for him it's just roots and narrow and whatever, and for anyone else is someone else is drops and big jumps. Mm-hmm. What is a double black diamond trail?
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm pretty sure he has a list of some places that he likes to frequent.
For sure.
And maybe we should fire an email back and just kind of get those out of him so we can visit them too.
Tell us all your secret spots.
Looking to hear from you, Dave. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, last one, Chris.
I'm listening.
Let me conjure something brilliant. The Skigglers are asking through me, what is it or who is it outside of mountain biking that inspires you?
I'm a mountain bike guy. But as you mentioned, I have the guitars in the background and stuff. I'm listening. I could not live without music. And I think one of my biggest idols is, if I would have to choose someone else out of riding, it would be Chris Cornell, I think.
Oh, big nod from Pascal.
Solid choice.
It's a bit
Solid
a sad
choice.
story of his life, but in the end, I mean, he's one of the biggest and greatest singer ever.
Definitely. Yeah, so you're rocking out to Chris Cornell. You're throwing big lines, big backflips. You're winning medals, starting your own company, taking some photos, doing instruction, I guess.
Yeah, coaching.
Yeah,
A lot of
coaching. Digging, pro riding. It's living the dream.
Yeah, a little bit living a dream, yeah.
Well, thank you for being on the podcast, Chris. It was a pleasure to have you. Pascal.
Thanks, Chris. That was mega awesome.
Thank you too.
And with that, ciao, ciao.
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 Thanks for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. Why don't you let us know what you think? We really like to hear from our listeners. To find out how to get in touch with us, follow the links to our website in the description or find us on Instagram under @skitsandgiggles. Until next time, Skigglers.